Welcome, everyone, to this episode of REST, which stands for Resiliency and Empowerment Seminar today. This is a show where I interview CEOs of small and mid-sized businesses, executives of nonprofits, and other community leaders. Today, I am so excited to speak with Subrina Oliver. Subrina is currently the CEO of Ojai Technologies, LLC, and founder of the Ojai Foundation, Inc. She is quite a trailblazer. She is known for such things like earning an automotive technology degree in half the time prescribed by Denver Automotive and Diesel College, and most notably returning to her alma mater high school to become one of New York's first certified female automotive technology public school teachers. And if that's not enough, she taught vehicle maintenance and repairs and transportation systems. Dr. Oliver is a veteran New York State education technology education teacher equipped with multiple licenses, and we would spend all day if I told you every single one of them. But not only that, Dr. Oliver is honorably discharged from the U.S. Navy Construction Battalion, and she served as Long Island's first K-12 Director of STEM Education and Career and Technical Education, and an adjunct professor for SUNY Farmingdale State College's Automotive Department. Some of her self-proclaimed accomplishments and outside recognition: she's a STEMinist, which I love that, and we'll get into that. And she is a 2016 doctoral graduate of Pace University's Seidenberg School of Computer Science and Information Systems. And she is very proud of her commitment to provide a STEM gateway, particularly for underserved students, and that's why her non-for-profit focuses on STEM projects for this community, particularly Long Island's high needs community, and it's www.thestemprojectcenter.org. And all of her clients are afforded the innovative 21st century solutions and resources needed to be successful in the STEM field. She is also a member of a variety of organizations, and I'll name a few: the International Technology Engineering Educators Association, the Association of Science, Education, and Technology, the National Association of Black Women in Construction, the Long Island African American Chambers of Commerce, and the list goes on. She, in addition, has won several awards, including the 2017 Service Award from the Long Island Coalition of Black Trade Unionists. And in 2018, she became an honoree for the town of Babylon's 30th annual Black History Month, African Americans in Times of War. So with that, welcome, Dr. Subrina Oliver.
Wow, thank you. Thank you for having me. I love REST. I love the acronym. That's great. When I read it is one thing, but when I hear it is something else. It's really great. I love that you're doing this. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So let's dive in. So take us back to the early days of growing up and how you got fascinated with technology and how things worked.
Yeah, I'm often asked that question. And I think that for me, I've always been, it's just my personality. I've just always been curious about, the way things work. I'm more of a systems and process nerd, especially systems. I love systems. My dad used to drive us every summer from, if we lived in New York, I was born in New York, and then I lived in New York till second grade. But my father's family is in Savannah, Georgia. So My mom, dad, brothers, we will always have to go to Savannah for the summers when we lived in New York. And then when we moved, finally, second grade, when we moved to Savannah, we will always have to obviously return to visit my grandmother and everybody here in New York. But the reason why I share that is because I was fascinated with the parkway system, the things that traveling I-95, and also the fascination that my father always knew where he was going. And and so I would ask so many different types of questions that would drive my parents crazy as young curious children, but especially children who have an affinity for, say, the sciences and exploring the technical things and how things work. And so I'm fascinated still to this day. The U.S. Parkway system, interstate system, is remains fascinating to me because it was also duplicated for the internet. And most people don't realize that transportation and communications are like first cousins. When one progresses, the other progress, and so when one lags, the other progress to make up, so I just always been fascinated. There's not been a time. It's just what I'm interested in, and usually it's multiple things. And so I've been encouraged, to explore, especially explore on my own in terms of my parents. So yeah, I would say that it's always been me.
So I just learned something right now because I did not know that the internet and connections were inspired by the parkway system. So
Yeah,
thank you.
network.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
makes
So many things.
makes sense. So how did you decide then, okay, you're curious and you like how things work? How did that drive you then to, focus in on the automotive industry in particular to start?
Yeah, the same thing, Susan. The same thing. Uh, Again, I always had, these interests in terms of, how I focused on automotive. Um, One, as a young girl, I never thought of myself as working for someone. I've always been a risk taker. Believe it or not, fifth grade, I had my own kind of business. I used to also dance professionally, but in fifth grade, I would buy my whole dance group, and this wasn't even the professional group, their uniforms and everything. I just had a way of
Wow.
making money, right? And it wasn't until I actually, my dad, I should say, my father is he was, excuse me, um, a diesel mechanic for the U.S. Army. And so it was just, I'm always around it. But quite honestly, as much as I absolutely love cars, I really loved airplanes more. It's just
Ah,
that when we moved to New York, the access was not known to me in terms of how to get into aviation, right? And so it just so happens that the high school, um, that I went to actually had an automotive program. So to me, I was like,
ah,
oh, okay, I'll settle for this,
right.
But I never wanted to. I never wanted to necessarily just work on cars. I wanted to know how cars work because I've always believed that being a technician and understanding, no matter what type of technician, it just makes you better at leading an organization when you can relate to everybody, in
Yes.
the company. And so I've always looked at the car as an opportunity for any type of business. So any part of the car, you can make a business. And so um, that I always have support in terms of automotive, and I went into it. But I love all things transportations. I even taught engineering. So it's just an affinity. And so before I finished with this answer, I want to encourage people when they are fascinated about women being in the automotive industry. I want to remind us all that all women are in, for the most part, not all, but for the most part, largely we are in the automotive industry. We're in cars. We
Yes.
buy cars. So it's just like eating. No one asks you why work at a restaurant, why become a chef. You eat, you're involved in food, and you just decide to make a career out of it. That's my position.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And then how did you decide then to go into teaching and educating people
Yeah.
in these careers?
Yeah, so believe it or not, when as I said, I studied automotive so that I can actually have a business. That's always been my passion. Never wanted to teach, you know, but because I was a female that successfully went through the 2-year program at the high school and also the academic side, and I was very good academically. And then the fact that I went to an automotive school that basically I couldn't even get a dorm because it was largely males. I had to get an apartment. It's roughly about 3 girls, I believe, in the entire
Wow.
school. And so
Wow.
on my time off, recess or anything, I would always return to my alma mater to help the teacher try to engage and attract, should I say attract and engage girls to also take the class, because he was a man that wanted females to take the class. And we just could not get girls in. I should say, keep them in. And so I I just organically always worked with the school for that very purpose whenever I came home, homecoming, or whatever I can do to support. So what happened was the teacher, when he was ready to retire, he wanted one of his students to take over. And I had a young family. The family was changing, and my hours in the automotive industry was so long. And so he was like, "Oh, it would just be his dying wish if, especially if I were as his only female to take the class." I just never thought about it, but quite honestly, I was still going to school. Um,
Yes.
After I came back, I was still, getting my bachelor's, and school is very easy for me. So I was like, okay, so all right, I'll do it, because in terms of the hours and the cost of daycare, it did make sense, and I would be able to spend more time with with my children. And so that is why I went in, and then just from there, I just said more is needed, more connections are needed between education and careers.
Absolutely. And this brings me to my next question, really about empowerment, because that's what you're doing and inspiring and empowering, particularly young girls and women, to go in to careers that they might not have thought of before. So, talk to me about what empowerment means to you and how you inspire others.
Well, empowerment really means opportunities. Empowerment means positioning yourself for crisis such as this, the pandemic, right? That
Yes.
you're going to be okay. Um, empowerment, empowerment for me is STEM education and STEM preparedness, because I've seen it change my life. I've seen it save my life. I've seen it save my child's life. And I just so believe in it, simply because it teaches you critical thinking skills, most important problem solving skills, how to access and utilize resources, how to actually look at things differently, but in an empirical standpoint, and be able to and make informed decisions and informed applications. So to me, empowerment, and what I try to do to pass the torch forward is really, I'm just a lover of education, but not in a traditional sense. not in a traditional sense, but in the connectedness between learning and application, schools and careers, and also knowing that if we empower more, not just girls, but just more youth, more young people, even parents and teachers, I should say. Let's just say if we empower more school stakeholders to see that STEM is transferable and it is all encompassing, I think that more people would be better responsive in this climate. Many people are asking me about how I feel and what's going on, and in the face of COVID. And I'm just not bothered the way so many people are. I see it for what it is. I respect it. I'm doing what I need to do for myself, my community, my neighbors, and supporting, but there are some things that you can understand that you would have learned, if you were empowered through STEM education.
Terrific. And that brings me to the flip side. The other thing that we talk about on the show is resiliency.
Mm-hmm.
So can you share with us how you're being resilient now, how you've been resilient in the past?
Mm-hmm. 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 I'm trying to think of what story quickly to tell you. In terms of COVID, I feel like I explained that, a bit. But what I would like to share is a moment, 2017, August. My daughter was hit by a car, fatal accident. And the reason why I want to bring this up is because I remember one of the surgeons. I just can't think of which surgeon it was. It was multiple surgeons because she was in ICU. And he was, trying to give me as a mother the most, the worst news, because it was a near fatal accident. They told me she only had about 5 minutes to live. And so I made a decision. I said, okay, these people are my people, the doctors. They use data the same way that I use data. And so, okay, so I was saying to the surgeon, I kept saying, okay, all right. And so whenever he told me something, I said, okay. And then he would tell me something else, okay. But I wasn't crying. And so he said, no, it's not okay. I said, no, not okay that these things are happening, but okay, I understand. Let's move on to this. Okay, I understand. Let's move on to that. So now that I have this information, in this crisis, okay, I'm informed and I can make some decisions about what's the next best thing or the most immediate thing to do or not to do, what resources I need or I do not need, what people I need to help me, get through or to leverage this situation in terms of improve the outcomes, for my daughter. And the same thing, the way I use that now, what is it that I need in the face of everything? And at the end of the day, I tell myself, after you've done everything, that you given, that you made an informed decision. I just want to say informed decision with good data, with actual factual data, you can say that, you've done all that you can do. And then I just tell myself that even, the outcome, whatever is to happen, is not against me, it's for me in some kind of way.
Yeah. So what I take away from the story, it's not about woe is me. It's this is happening for me as
Yes.
opposed to me, which is a very
Absolutely.
empowering
It
statement, and say, okay, I can make decisions. I can use data to help me make decisions and influence outcomes in that way.
Yeah, and Susan, I want to say the other thing important about that time is not just data, but the freshness of data, current data, relative. So you just have to be aware. But again, critical thinking helps you with that problem solving.
Yes. Yes. So it's this weaving of science that's gone throughout your life
Yeah.
and just your way of being
Yes.
almost. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
Tell me a little bit more about your company and what you're doing and your foundation as well, so our audience has a better picture of what you're
Yeah.
doing now.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So OHI Technologies is very different. I what I love about what we are basically the nexus between STEM education and STEM industries, and we are at the center to bridge those two. Very relevant. Very disadvantaged entities, both the education, STEM education, as well as STEM industries. When I say it's disadvantage, I'm saying that it's disadvantage for certain communities, too many communities. In the STEM industries, it is very common to not see someone like myself. Even at more than 30 years in STEM, in one way or another, I'm in the room and it's just me that looks like me, whether it is female or whether it is, African American or African American and female. And so by this happening here in the United States, and this is across the nation, this is just not one place, it's also happening in the schools, where the schools, especially those majority minority schools, students do not have or are not consistently and constantly receiving STEM education pathways to lead them to these STEM careers. So what we do is we actually create OHI Technologies affords the both. We actually provide STEM education preparedness, and we also provide workforce development and a workforce pipeline. And I'm happy to also share that we're working on this year opening up a STEM center that's been in the making in terms of design before COVID. But we hope to have it open. The plan is to have the goal is to have it open for fall, but it will be an on-site, online, and off-site. And what's different about it being off-site, that means that there is an apprenticeship, internship, job shadowing component that is woven in for our programs. And it is an after school / before school type of program. But the other thing that OHI Technologies does is that we identify emerging technologies or technologies in the field. For example, Long Island's South Shore wind farms. These are opportunities that in the power and energy fields where minorities would not necessarily be in. And so this is an opportunity where we can present, for example, drone education, drone technologies, and also provide that workforce development and connections for an actual authentic project like that. And then what the foundation does is we do quite a number of things, but our primary project is STEM education in terms of STEM exposure, field trips, and resources to schools, parents, school stakeholders. If you visit the actual, you'll see the websites, but you can visit and learn a bit more of what we do. And then also, lastly, on the STEM project side, we offer different types of STEM camps for exposure. But everything that we do, whether it is for-profit or nonprofit, are connecting schools and industry. So that's what we offer, and I'm excited about that. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's quite a lot that you are doing and important work in the community, which brings me to the next question, which is kind of related to the experience with your daughter, but all the things that you're doing. And that's really about self-care and
Yeah.
putting you on your agenda. So can you share with us how you do that and why that is so important?
Yeah. Thank you for that question. But you know how everyone has an Achilles heel? That is my area of weakness that I am working on. As a matter of fact, my children and I, we had a meeting on Easter, which was also my birthday. And I told them, I said, because of what's happening in this pandemic, it's very important that we change our family theme. And our goal is now stay ready so you don't have to get ready. And that stay ready and be prepared so you don't have to get prepared, because when you have to get prepared, you're putting yourself in a situation where you're dependent on others, or you're dependent on resources may not be there. Like, for example, buying, going to the grocery store, there's no corner on the cob. You can't take for granted that products will even be there. So I connect that also to my own health, and I've need to put myself in a better position. I need to take care of myself so that I would not be in this this fragile group, because of, say, high blood pressure, and because of the weight, because this is something that I can control, right?
Yes.
And because I wasn't ready, I didn't stay focused on taking care of myself. Now I'm one of the ones that are most fragile, in terms of COVID. And so I said, oh, I can't do this. This is just, too real. So I know that now, and what I've started doing is taking care of myself daily. It's not even a project. It's just a lifestyle, just the changes, and starting small. So that's what I'm doing, small, consistent things that I'm doing. For example, if you told me I was going to drink at least 1.5 gallons of water every day, I would say, no, not me. I just can't even do it. But now, yeah, I have to do it. And so just those small steps, and meditating, and, getting back to the things that bring me peace, things that make me better, things that influence positive energy or bring me positive energy. I'm welcoming more of that. And that's what I'm doing. It's so very important. And I wish that for everyone.
Yes, I hear you, and I echo it, because as I say to a lot of people, if we're not taking care of ourselves, then we can't be present fully to serve all the people in our lives, whether that be family, community, or our clients.
Right.
So I'm glad that you're taking time now and sort of shining a spotlight on that, because we need you in the world, Sabrina,
Thank
to
you.
play full out.
Yeah.
I had another question for you, because you talked about earlier about your teacher and how he influenced you, and he was an advocate of seeing you share the message with others about the importance of STEM. Who else have been your mentors and your sponsors throughout your careers? Can you share with us, you don't have to name names, but types of people and how you might have approached them to be your mentors and sponsors?
Yes. So I have multiple people in my life through my career, and whether it is someone like yourself, I've talked to many times, and love the support, and the advice and the consulting, you know, um, um, efforts that you've extended, and small business development, Suffolk County Community College. There's just so many people now. So because um, I'm into technologies, and there are
Yes.
different types of technologies, and then also I'm also into education. So I have multiple types of communities that I go to, and even my even within my STEM community, there are also other different people that I am interacting with. So I would say, when it comes to groups, especially and talking about, I'm sorry, support in terms of mentor, um, I look for mentorship, for helping me to progress the first of all, refine, and the objectives of the business. That's one of the things I had to the businesses, because I think all the way down the road vision, and I don't really do the little steps leading up to it. Like I start at the end and I can work backwards. I can't start from step one. That's just not my personality. And the way that I think in multiple things. I never even just read one book. I read multiple books at one time. So I get people who are much stronger than me, in my weakest areas. People who are like me, but ahead of me. And then I keep a lot of creative people in my life, because that's a side of me too. But I just find that I love creatives. They think differently, and I don't always have to explain why I'm thinking differently. Many of the support groups, business support groups are there for women, for African American, communities and things of that nature. But there are just so many different, the resources are out there. And I just try to identify and work with those who are excited by the work that I'm doing, um, in the ways that they want to show up. And I appreciate that.
Awesome. Do you have a word or a phrase that you use to inspire you or keep you going? Let's say if you're having a bad day, or even to start your day in a positive way. Is there any particular word or phrase that keeps you focused?
I with my daughter, because my son lives outside the house. My son's 25, my daughter's 23. We just say, no matter what, we're going to be all right. That's what we say. We just, no matter what, we don't see it and we don't need to see it. We're going to be all right. And it's just so funny because it can be a trying time. We just look at each other, we're going to be all right. And we say it in that high pitched voice. But that's what I say. I wake up very early in the morning. It's very natural for me. 4 a.m. I really need to see the sunrise. I think it is a blessing. I've lost a lot of people in my life, and I don't take for granted seeing that sunrise or seeing that sunset. I am a Savannah girl, and so I have many windows in my room, on 3 walls except for one of them, right? And big windows, so I get to see. I don't take that for granted. That is grace, that I'm able to see it. And then I'm further blessed if everybody in my life, that I love and care about, also can wake up. And I also not just wake up, I get up. I never need an alarm. I don't wake up tired, so I will just leave you with that.
That's amazing, and this connectedness to nature,
I love
and
it.
and just to be an appreciation of that. It's very special.
Thank you.
So before we wrap up, a couple of things. What is at least one takeaway or an insight that you would like our audience to remember from our conversation today?
Well, I want everyone to take this time to look at what it is um, that you've always wanted to do. What is just that affinity? I've used that word a couple of times. What's your natural affinity? Do you like the color? Color. And then think about all the different things that you can do, or the careers that are involved in coloring, or making of colors. And then share that. Look at the careers that are around it. Ask yourself, how is that showing up, in the experiences that through media, I know that if I looked at the Little House on the Prairie, or old or movies made in 1987, and I want to watch them now again, I'm noticing the Technicolor is different, so really take the time to think about what your affinity is, us and or R, and R is okay too if it's multiple, and explore that, because so many people are not necessarily risk takers. And then unfortunately, not being a risk taker in this type of climate, this pandemic, where you're forced in an unnatural routine, And the truth of the matter is that so many people are not able to return to work because work won't be there for them. So use this time to think about what is it that you want to, what is it that brings you joy? What is your affinity? And look to see where you can show up and how that can show up for you.
Beautiful. Well said. So I want people to find you, and I know you have a slide for us that shows all the ways that people can find you. So can you bring that up for us?
Yes, absolutely.
So there she is. So we have www.o-hightech.com, and we also have www.o-high.org. We have the www.thestemprojectcenter.org, and then you can also follow Subrina on social media via Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn.
And just not to have you have to say all those different at me's is okay, Susan. If they just put in High Technologies on Twitter or High Foundation or the STEM Project Center or any one of those platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, they'll find me on LinkedIn, Subrina D. Oliver. So simple.
Terrific. Well, thank you for sharing that, Subrina. And please do look up her initiatives. As you heard, she's very inspiring. She is involved in a lot of different STEM initiatives, and we heard how STEM is part of her decision making, just a part of a way of life. And sort of for me, it's shined a light on how sort of science can play into your daily routines. So Subrina, can you just take us back to just you and me so we can close out our session today?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I'm sorry.
It's okay. So again, thank you, Subrina, for sharing your story. Very inspirational. And I want to thank our audience for watching us and continuing to watch us. Yes. Be well.
Thank you. Thank you. Goodbye, Rest audience. Bye-bye now.
Okay, I stopped recording. How did that make you feel? How do you feel?
Good. It's good. I'm working on my cadence and things of that nature that I'm noticing. Oh my gosh. And my tone. So these are different things that I'm working on in my interest to, have speaking engagements. And there are some other things that I'm working on to further that goal of mine in terms of public speaking. I'm very comfortable with public speaking, but I'm trying to work on certain things that I'm noticing. Today, I actually looked at a location in Hempstead.
You did? Wow.
Yeah, and so I had to be talked into looking at it, and because I was I was interested in a location in Westbury on Old Country Road.
Yes.
Yeah, I was closer to the family court and juvenile detention center.
Yeah, were you looking at was it Long Island Tech Center or something like that?
Yeah, so no, not that. No, not the center. It was it's actually never been used as a school. But then I was talked into, taking a second look at a building on Fulton in Hempstead. And because they've had multiple schools there before, but that is also a concern because they had them before.
Right.
So that, that's something that pops up, and but also they also have a C of O, and they have sprinkler systems. Some of the older buildings do not have sprinkler systems, and it's sort of hard to get sprinkler systems installed when you have other offices because you have to tear them up. So I'm a little excited about that. I'm in a negotiation right now. I feel like their rates are just too high. I told them I'll talk to them in about a week, but chances are I don't know. Because I am interested, but I also can walk away. Because ultimately, I do
Yeah.
want to I want to own. So even if I stay there, if I take it to be a 5-year lease, but I'm looking ultimately to model McDonald's. I want to, own every location, since I know that I want more than one center. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
That's
we'll see.
exciting.
Yeah, it is. It's scary. They're talking about, just, oh my God, the price per square footage, but we'll see. I'll figure it out.
Yes. Well, this is a good time to negotiate because I think the physical presence of how business will be done going forward is going to change. It's not just going to go boop,
Absolutely.
back to where it was,
It's not. It's not.
because now people are realizing, oh, well, wait a second. People can work from home and they can be productive. And I don't know that I need to pay for all that square footage
Right.
and so forth. So maybe I equip them. Maybe I do buy the laptops or what have
Right.
you.
It's cheaper.
For folks instead of the squares. So I see all like smaller footprints.
Yeah.
And I see that, yeah, there'll still be camaraderie, and they'll, when it's safe to get together, they'll have get-togethers and so forth. But I don't see the big, like, look at our footprint.
Right.
happening.
Especially before the vaccinations are released, which is 18 months. We're talking about next year, late 2021. So a lot of people are also going to leave their jobs because it's not safe, for those jobs who are not considerate enough to think about, just as you stated, extended, remote working. So, there's that. But no, I do know that it is a good time for me. I'm MWBE and New York State, New York City, and so many other things. And also when I look at the certifications that I have, I do see that I'm in a very good position. As a matter of fact, I'm finishing up writing a grant today that needs to be submitted today, that I'm going to finish up, and just really try to open up this after school training center, which I finally figured out how to make it so that it's not anything more than a complement to schools, and not in competition, so that they're not shut it down, shut it down. But even then, even then, I know some won't understand and they'll still see it like that because there are so many charter schools.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But Hempstead is considered an empowerment hub, empowerment zone, they call it.
Okay.
And the #1 in the nation, by the way.
Wow.
Yeah. So therefore, there was that, that information for me to take a look at this space again, take a look at
Yeah.
this space again. So, yeah.
Well, take your time. Don't
Yep.
rush.
I'm not. Yes, I'm not. But thank you.
You're
How
welcome.
do you think it went? How do you feel
So
about
I
it?
I
Put it in?
feel good about it.
Okay.
I'm
Okay, good.
I'm happy. For me, it's all I make it about my guests. It's not
Yeah.
about Susan Gans. I try to pick up on things that you talk about so that
Uh-huh.
it highlights who you are, what causes you stand for, but also we get to the things that are relevant today, which is particularly around resiliency and
Right.
empowerment. So,
Well,
sort of trying to weave those things in
yeah,
as well.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Did a great job.
Thank you.
Was that your first?
No,
Oh, okay, good. Good, good, good,
no.
good.
I
Okay.
have now 4 under my belts.
Okay.
And what's going to happen next is I'm putting the finishing touches on my website. So everything's going to get branded at once, right? So it's a website,
Yes.
the YouTube channel, the Facebook page, so that it's all consistent.
Yeah, that's
So
smart doing it that way, because I'm going, that's one of my goals if I get some of this money, to rebrand so that it's consistent and seamless. like for example, take the hyphen out, so
Yeah.
that's easier, things of that nature. Yeah. So yeah, it's smart. I do also want a fresher look. So, but no, I like the way that you're doing it.
Thank you. All right,
You're
my
welcome.
friend. We'll be in touch. I'll
Okay.
let you know when the link is available so you could share it on social and all your different websites and so forth.
Okay.
Okay.
Absolutely. All right. Bye bye now.
All
Have a
right.
great night.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thanks. You too.